Welcome back to the World History News Network. Today is International History Day. We will be talking about the Middle East, Western Europe, Russia and Byzantine, and East Asia during the post-classical time period. First off, we'll be talking about the Middle East. Let's go to Alex in the field.
Thanks. I'm currently standing here in Damascus, the capital of the Umayyad dynasty, which began in 661 CE. It was most known for expansion, expanding east into Afghanistan and west into North Africa and Christian Spain. However, it would soon fall in 750 CE because of their exclusion of the non-Arab subject people. The bureaucracy was mostly composed of Arab Muslims, and because of their exclusion of these people, they slowly banded together and overthrew the dynasty. However, that's a short history, so let's go back to the studio.
Thanks, Alex. Now let's move on to Western Europe during the early Middle Ages from 600 to 1000 CE.
Thanks, Marcus. I'm here in Western Europe in Frankish territory. The Frankish kingdom was one of the most important kingdoms in Western Europe during this time period. Two of the most important leaders were Charlemagne and Charles Martel. Charlemagne expanded the empire to control most of mainland Europe and was crowned emperor by the Pope in 800. Charles Martel was able to halt Muslim advance into Western Europe in 733 at the Battle of Tours. Europe during this time was characterized by feudalism, which is a complex system of political and military loyalties that linked lords to each other. It was also characterized by manoralism, which was an economic system where peasants were tied to the land and had to supply labor for the lords. But we currently have Charlemagne here for an interview, so let's head back to the studio for that.
Thanks, Alex. We got Charlemagne here in the studio to talk about his new writing, The Capitulary on Amici. So what can you tell us about it?
To keep order in my kingdom, I sent officials to oversee the accounts.
Could you give us an excerpt?
Yes. No one shall dare to neglect to pay his dues or tax.
Well, thank you for your time. Now let's go to Alex in the field to talk about Russia and Byzantine.
We've moved locations again to visit Constantinople, the capital of the Byzantine Empire. Constantinople was an important early trade city and was located by the water, which meant it had great access to trade routes. One other area that traded with the Byzantine Empire was Russia, which started to form north of Byzantium. The most important early city was Kiev, a great trade center on the Dnieper River. In 989 CE, Prince Vladimir of Kiev converted to Eastern Orthodox Christianity, the major religion of the Byzantine Empire. After the conversion, Byzantine influences rushed into Russia, including the Cyrillic alphabet, art, architecture, law codes, and missions. This was just a quick overview of some of the developments going on in Eastern Europe during this time. Now let's go back to the studio.
Thanks, Alex. Now let's move on to China to talk about the Sui and Tang dynasty.
Here we are in Chang'an, the capital of the Tang dynasty in China. But before I talk about the Tang dynasty, I have to discuss the Sui dynasty. The Sui dynasty was short, beginning in 589 CE and ending in 618 CE. Before this dynasty, China was in a period of disunity, until Wendi, the founder of the Sui dynasty, reunited China. One of the most important things that the Sui dynasty was responsible for was the construction of the Grand Canal, a large canal that linked the Yellow and Yangtze River and stimulated internal trade in China. However, shortly after the Sui started, it fell when Wendi was murdered in 618 CE. After the Sui, the Tang dynasty came to power, and they ruled until 907 CE. The Tang dynasty was the golden age of Chinese history, and during this time there were many economic and cultural developments in China, such as the creation of the equal field system.
Thanks, Alex. Now let's return to the Middle East to talk about the Abbasid dynasty. Let's go to the field.
Stop right there. Do you not have a camel saddle? How else do you expect to ride across the desert in comfort? Well, don't worry. We've got you covered at www.saddlestogo.com. Right now, you can order a high-quality saddle for $200, and if you order right now, you can order 2 for the price of 1. So what are you waiting for? Go online to www.saddlestogo.com.
Thanks. I'm currently in Baghdad, one of the most important cities right now. It's a large trade hub and an important intellectual center in the world, and it contains the House of Wisdom. Baghdad is the capital of the Abbasid dynasty, which is the second dynasty in the Islamic Empire. The Abbasid dynasty is currently going through a golden age with many literary, scientific, and artistic accomplishments. Many Muslim cities have great mosques, public baths, government buildings, and religious schools. The Abbasid dynasty has been known for many advances in optical science, pharmacology, and anatomy, and one of the most important developments, algebra, which is an advancement in mathematics that allows us to solve much more complex equations. We'll keep you up to date on any new advancements here, but let's return to the studio for an interview.
Thanks. We got Ibn Battuta here for an interview. So what are some of the cities you visited?
To name a few, I've been to Medina, Mecca, Alexandria, and Cairo.
And so what are the differences you've seen in the areas?
Well, the women don't veil themselves even though they're Muslim, but I don't agree with that.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to Alex in the field and talk about the late Middle Ages in Western Europe.
I'm currently standing outside of Venice, which is a very important city right now in Europe. Not only is it an important trade city in the Mediterranean, it's also currently involved in the Renaissance, which is a revival of classical art, architecture, literature, and learning. But let's talk about two other important events that occurred not too long ago. First, the Battle of Hastings, which happened when William the Conqueror of Normandy invaded and took over England in 1066. Another important event were the Crusades, which were a series of exhibitions led by the Catholic Church. The First Crusade began in 1095, when Pope Urban II called upon the Christian knights to support the Byzantine Empire and help to defend against Turkish attacks. However, one of the most important parts of the Crusades were the impact they had on Western Europe and the Middle East. During the Crusades, interactions between Western Europe and the Middle East led to increased trade in the area, which resulted in the transferring ideas and technologies between the two that would help pull Europe out of the Middle Ages. Let's go back to the studio.
Thanks, Alex. Now let's go back to Russia and Byzantine, to where the Mongols ruled Russia.
I'm here in Russia, which has just been freed from Mongol rule by Ivan III. But to understand what just happened, you have to know some history of Russia. Russia was invaded in the 13th century by the Mongols, who established the Khanate of the Golden Horde, also called the Tartar Yoke. The Russian princes served as vassals of the Khanate of the Golden Horde and had to pay the Mongols while they ruled them. Later on, Ivan I came to power and slowly started collecting extra taxes, which he stored in secret. This money helped Russia expand its influence and gather under other principalities. Then, soon after came Ivan III, who was able to successfully free Russia from Mongol rule and end the Khanate of the Golden Horde. We have him at the studio now for an interview, so let's cut to that.
Thanks. We've got Ivan III here for an exclusive interview. So what did you do?
I overthrew the Mongols in Russia.
And how did you do it?
I refused to pay the taxes, and they didn't have the strength of will to even respond.
Okay, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the field and talk about East Asia.
I'm currently in Hangzhou, a huge center of trade and commerce in China. Hangzhou rose to become an important city during the Song dynasty, which was split into two eras, the Northern Song and the Southern Song. The Northern Song lasted from 960 to 1279, and the Southern Song lasted from 1127 to 1279. During the Song dynasty, Neo-Confucianism became the main philosophy, which was a newer version of Confucianism, which rose to prominence. Neo-Confucianism was very similar to Confucianism, and it reinforced class, age, and gender distinctions. During the Song dynasty, China had many advancements in production and commerce. They also advanced in papermaking, book production, and created gunpowder and steel. Hangzhou was the capital of the Southern Song, and was home to many merchants, craftsmen, and government officials. It was a great trade city and exported silk, copper coins, and ceramic to many different areas of the world. Now let's head back to the studio.
Thanks. Now let's look at some of the continuities and changes in these areas. First off, the Middle East. One major change was the decline in the treatment of women. One major continuity was that Mecca retained its status as a holy site.
Hold up. Just because you have the camel saddle doesn't mean you have it all. You don't have a horse collar. The only way for your horse to plow the field without it choking to death. So go to www.horsecollarstogo.com right now, and you can get your high-quality horse collar for $50. If you order within the next 10 minutes, you can get 2 horse collars and 4 horseshoes for only $75. So go to www.horsecollarstogo.com.
Next region is Western Europe. One major change was the spread of the Black Death and its impact on European population. One continuity was a continuation of the Catholic Church as a major influence. The next region is Russia and Byzantine. One major change was the adoption of Eastern Orthodox Christianity and the Cyrillic alphabet. One continuity was that the Byzantine Empire continued to preserve Greek knowledge. The last region is East Asia. One main change was the decline in the treatment of women. One main continuity was the importance of Confucianism contained in China. Now let's talk about the general comparisons. The first general comparison is between Western Europe and the Byzantine Empire and the religions. Western Europe used Catholicism, which had a religious leader called the Pope. The Byzantine Empire used Eastern Orthodox Christianity, which had an emperor that had religious and political authority. The second general comparison is between East Asia and the Middle East and the treatment of women. In East Asia, women had to foot bind, while in the Middle East, women were often included. In both societies, women were seen as inferior to men. That will end off the show for today. Thank you for watching the World History News Network, and I'll see you tomorrow.